So you've ever been on the London Tube? This one's about the London Tube. I've never done this as an a cappella before. It's normally supposed to always be with beats, but the chorus is something I wrote with Baba Brinkman, who's a Canadian rapper, amazing Canadian rapper. We wrote this together at a tune, and the chorus goes, "Please mind the gap, please mind the gap. Please don't disturb this man when he's trying to rap. Please stand clear of the closing doors. The closing doors determine your chosen course." It goes, "Please mind the gap, please mind the gap. Please don't disturb this man when he's trying to rap. Please stand clear of the closing doors. The closing doors determine chosen underfoot underground. Cultures cross-fertilise. I stand under a dirty sign and watch bodies hurtle by behind glass etched with the tags of graffitists who see their works work the circuit of the circle line. Bags are snatched. Other bags hang under workers' eyes. Bags full of blues, coffee and overtime. We stare at each other's shoes because shoes designate a certain tribe. We've all bought the merchandise. And when the train stops at Totteridge and Whetstone, we all look up and watch this nervous guy get off his bench and step in line and get in. Let's call him Kevin. Blushing at the couple showing signs of affection, Kevin sits and tries to hide his erection behind a paperback entitled Pride and Perfection. Hunched spine like a question, he wants to chat, but people are unreachable across the gap between the seats which allows passengers to read the metro without touching knees with the next bloke. It's the gap between the dweeb with their legs closed and the pinstripe white collar fiending to get coped up in the gap between the office and the strip club opener ends with a cocktail and a thick rub. It's the gap between a man that enters with a pimp strut and the lady reading Heat that wants a nip and tuck. All citizens of the world, just different hairdos. Step across the gap, bruv. I dare you. That's something I did as part of a hip-hop crew called Mud Sun, with a guy called Baba Brinkman, as I said. Last one. Definitely. He sits with his head in his hands, his feet sunk into the sand. The sky turns grey above him. He shows no sign of being alive. But what can a boy do? The day the world went wrong, he was in the front row. What must he go through to pay? Well, he don't know. Maria was his sweetness, his light, his redress, his night, his day. They rented a flat together and shared the summer in their hideaway. All he needed was her cheek pressed to his, and his world was calm. He could almost weep just watching her sleeping in the circle of his arms. There was one day they woke up early, and the dawn was splashed with gold. Maria jumped up and wanted to walk in the morning cold, so they left, undressed and stepped outside, strode the avenues, nude and giggling, unashamed and unafraid of any truths the universe may cast their way, whatever time may bring. They danced among the city greys, and then he heard her sing, "Won't you follow me to find a space a little closer to the sea, to float away, away, away. Today, 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 today." But then the season spun. The week and the sun began to fade. With such freedoms come poverty, and food has to be paid for. Maria was too much the wild child to work for a living, so it was he who went out chasing papers while she chased her visions. Imprisoned in suits and ties and factory uniforms, he slaved to pay for them both. Dawn through to dusk. Resentment cultivated into mistrust in his mind, and nothing hits us like a kiss does when there's very little love left within it. And workaday stress has stretched his love to its limits. Money makes money, someone said, right? But the money he made barely bought bread for the table. And when you watch the weeks tick away, and the clock on the factory wall steals the day, and all that's left you is the grey of twilight, and the long tired nights, there's got to be a point when your fire dies. And his was fading fast. No number of Maria's laughs could warm him. Someone should have warned him. Even a crack in the design can let a storm in, and the architecture of their love was looking worn thin. A smile, a worried look, an angry thought, a fumbled coffee cup, a slap, a slammed door. She wanted to make love, he needed to sleep. She wanted to talk, he thought, she thought too deep. When she said, Won't you follow me to find a space a little closer to the sea, to float away, 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 today, 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 today. And to his mind it seemed that Maria had lost her rhyme and her reason in her drinking and daydreaming. Sick of coming home to the mess she made with scattered sculptures and fragments of scribbled pages. She called it art. He called it from work, said he'd be home late, needed some of his own space, needed a drink, so he went with a couple of workmates to this bar just open close to the factory gates. And his mates were chatting about these women they find fit, saying they wouldn't mind a bit of it and considering, and in the midst of it, our friend is drunk and hypnotised by this blonde bit of skirt with cute little eyes that flicker like the serpent's tongue, blatantly flirting. He thought, that's just what I need after a week's working, right? And one drink leads to another thing. He finds himself pressed against the bar side, fumbling with this blonde bird, mumbling something about going back to hers. And before he knows, she's pulling off her skirt. 3 hours later, it's long done and over. In his sleep, becoming just a little more sober. He's locked within this dark dream. In his imagining, he's scrabbling to find Maria, but she keeps vanishing. He wakes, cold and shaking, in a sudden sweat. Driven by fear, he rushed to gather up his stuff and left, running with his head spinning, his tongue raw, running through the streets that had been theirs the summer before. He reached the door of the flat and tiptoed in, knowing he'd find his lover there, soft and dozing, but there was no lover. No sound, no smiles, just Maria's artwork stacked in neat little piles. He burst into the bedroom, but she wasn't there. Just a rumpled pillow and a strand of her hair, and this note where she would have laid her head. And the moment that he saw it, he knew that she was dead. It read, won't you follow me to find a space a little closer to the sea, to float away, 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 today, 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 today. 'Cause everything must die, no sooner dry than we are taken by the tide, and float away, 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 so very little time to play.
Fucking hell, man.
Thanks a lot. Really fucking love coming to North Wales. I came to Colwyn Bay last year. No, 2 years ago. And it's a fairly long trip up from London, especially when you miss the train. And I just can't get over the quality of the poetry in this place, given like how few people you've got in comparison to how many people London has per square inch. You lot are bloody amazing. So you've got something really special going. And honestly, I've been around the world to like this poetry, world championships and all this kind of crap. And you lot are brilliant. So big yourselves up, please. Like. Yeah. And also, let's do a massive round of applause for Martin George and Scorpio as well. And Steve. As well.
Steve deserves a special round of applause because he's kind of the anonymous member.
Okay, Dean, everybody! Give it up! Dean! I'm really spread the word about poetry and open mics and spoken word because it is the best way to spend your Friday night, I think. It's just like, it expands your mind by 8 foot every time, The other thing as well is I'd love to keep in touch with you guys. Please put your email addresses on my mailing list and I'll tell you about my gigs and stuff like that. And I've got CDs to sell if anyone wants one. Nice one.
Dizraeli, ladies and gentlemen, a perfect finale to the night. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you to all the performers. Thank you. Cheers. DJ!